So as part of the ongoing modernization effort for my blog, I've started to think more closely about the bundle size that I want the browser to download in order to function properly. And in that vein, I've decided to replace my jQuery library, which is 110 kilobytes uncompressed, with the Umbrella.js library, which is only about 8 kilobytes uncompressed and has a very similar Fluent API for DOM manipulation. Of course, dropping from 110K to 8K means that we do have to sacrifice some of the API methods that the jQuery library provides us, but as I'll show you in a second, we can easily make up for that parity gap using some plugins. So in this demo, all I'm doing is really introducing Umbrella.js. I'm not really doing anything sensical, just showing you how it works. So we have our list of friends here, class friends, and what we're going to do is add some DOM interactions, add some DOM content, and just show you that Umbrella.js works basically like jQuery. So I mentioned that when we go down from 110K to 8K, we're going to lose some functionality, but we can use the prototype object on the U, which is the Umbrella.js handle, to create plugins. So we can start to create our missing jQuery convenience methods by creating plugins on the Umbrella.js prototype object. In this case, Umbrella has .on to easily add event listeners, but I really enjoy having those old jQuery methods that bake the name of the event into the method name itself. So here we're going to use the on method to create a mouse enter and mouse leave event bindings. And we're going to do that by taking the event type and we're going to partially apply it to the on method. And we'll look more at that in a second. I also very much miss the CSS method. Now, the Umbrella.js philosophy is that you shouldn't really adjust CSS in the DOM. Really what you should be doing is adding and removing CSS classes, which then manipulate the DOM visuals. Of course, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you have to have runtime style manipulation. And in this case, all I'm going to do is pass in a style prop. And what you're going to see is I'm going to iterate over all of the nodes in the Umbrella collection. And I'm going to take that style prop and I'm going to spread it essentially into the style property of the underlying node using our native JavaScript functions here. So we've created some Umbrella.js plugins using prototypal inheritance. This is exactly the same way that jQuery does it as well. Spoiler alert, in order to use libraries like jQuery and Umbrella.js, you have to understand how JavaScript works. So it's just JavaScript all the way down. You're not removing JavaScript by using these kind of abstractions. You're making your JavaScript smaller, easier to read, easier to write, easier to maintain. So once we have our plugins, let's go ahead and actually start using the Umbrella.js API so you can see that it really looks and feels exactly like our old jQuery API. Here I'm using a CSS selector inside of the Umbrella.js constructor. That's going to return an Umbrella.js instance, and then we can start to manipulate things. I'm going to add an LI by attaching some arbitrary HTML here. Then I'm going to dive down out of my unordered list to find all of the LI items. I'm going to change the color of those items to fuchsia. Then I'm going to bind our mouse enter and our mouse leave handlers. And remember, these are the plugins that we just created. So they're using .on under the hood, but they're baking in or partially applying the event type to the on binding. So we're going to use those mouse enters inside of our handlers here. We're going to create another instance of the Umbrella.js library. Then we're going to use their convenience methods for adding and removing classes. In this case, we're adding and removing the active class. And then finally, we're going to iterate over each one of those LI items. Internally, we're going to create a wrapped node so that we can use our adder for accessing and writing attributes. And here you can see I'm going to use the text method to access the text content of the DOM node. And just here you can see the partially apply. Again, that's what we're using to build out the Umbrella.js plugins here. And what that does is it says take this function reference and return a function where the first argument to this function is this partially applied argument, this baked in argument. And here we get to use our fun ES6 plus concepts. We're going to use our REST operator here to slurp up all of those partially applied arguments into this variable. Then we're going to return a new function that takes those arguments and uses them as the first set of arguments when we invoke that function reference using the native .apply. And we get to use our spread operators here. Very exciting stuff. All right, so let's just jump into the browser and just make sure all of this works. So let's just quickly look at the network activity. Here, this is just loading off of GitHub. You can see that the umbrella.js library here is 8K uncompressed and about 2.8K gzip. So almost nothing, super, super small. And keep in mind that the uncompressed size is a better representation of how much code the browser has to actually parse, optimize, and execute. So even though the gzip size of various libraries may not be huge because text is a very, very compressible medium, the uncompressed size is going to be a better indicator of performance. Now let's jump over into our elements. One, we can see that we have Billy Bonanza here, and if we jump back into the code, remember this is an LI that we just added as arbitrary HTML. We changed the colors to fuchsia, and you can see that these are all fuchsia here. If we expand this and we look at the things, the LIs, you can see that the class active is being added and removed as we mouse enter and mouse leave. So we can see that our plugins are working properly. And then we added a title here. And if we jump back in, you can see that the title has been added, and the title is based on the text content of the LI itself. Timmy Tornado, my groovy friend Timmy Tornado. So there you go. Umbrella.js, a super small, super lightweight drop-in. I don't want to say drop-in replacement, but a replacement for jQuery. And you just have to massage some of your Umbrella.js code as part of the migration process. But that's going to lead, again, to a much smaller API or bundle size. And lighter weight code should be easier and faster for the browsers to parse and execute this code. So yeah, just exciting. I mean, just look at this API, right? I'm so tired of people shouting about you may not need jQuery. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you don't need in life. That doesn't mean it doesn't make your life a whole lot better. And for my money, this API, you just can't beat it with native DOM methods. That's why these functions exist, is to make the DOM methods easier to use and the code easier to read and write. And again, spoiler alert, it's all JavaScript. You're not using less JavaScript by using libraries like this. You're just writing less code. And last time I checked, that's a good thing.